Hello, and welcome again to our professional information series. I'm Cynthia Milburn from Epilepsy South Central Ontario. We provide support in the community for people with epilepsy, their families, and caregivers. We cover the regions of Peel, Halton, Hamilton, Haldimand, Brantford, Waterloo, Wellington, and Dufferin counties. During isolation, we have been actively providing one-to-one support, holding support groups and educational webinars through Zoom calls and Facebook, where we are reaching thousands of people. Many of our clients have inquired about seizure response dogs, what they do for a person with epilepsy, and they want to know what the process is to become a handler. Today, we are very excited to welcome our guest, Ian Ashworth. Ian is the Director of Program Development at Dog Guides Canada. We are so fortunate to have Ian with us, giving his vast experience. Ian started his dog guide career in April 1983 as an apprentice trainer with the Guide Dogs for the Blind in the UK. After graduating as a guide dog mobility instructor, he continued to train dogs for the blind and visually impaired for another 7 years, as well as being involved in the apprentice training. Ian gained promotion in 1993 to Dog Supply Supervisor, managing the foster puppy program and early training of dogs within the Central Region Centre of the UK. After a couple of years, Ian moved to the National Breeding Centre in the UK as Deputy Breeding Manager. There was a very steep learning curve, moving from training to one of the largest breeding programs in the world, breeding 1,100 puppies a year. When he first started, Ian knew almost nothing about dog breeding. The next few years were very eventful and interesting, and Ian had the opportunity to visit and collaborate with other dog guide organizations all around the world. In 1999, Ian moved up the position of National Breeding Manager. In this position, he continued to improve international collaborative dog guides breeding programs and increased the number of pups born to 1,250 per year. In 2002, Ian was offered a position of the breeding program manager for the Guide Dog Foundation for the Blind in New York, and moved eventually, after it taking nearly 3 years to get a green card, to the USA. During the wait period, Ian used to commute from London to New York every other month, and also had the opportunity to work a 3-month contract in Melbourne, Australia. Ian met the Executive Director of Dog Guides Canada at a conference in Baltimore. After several visits, moved from New York to Oakville, Ontario at the end of August 2007. In the 12 and a half years that Ian has been with Dog Guides Canada, he has seen the organization grow from the initial 3 programs, canine vision dogs, hearing dogs, and service dogs, to now 7 programs: seizure response dogs, autism assistance dogs, and the first accredited diabetic alert dog program in Canada, as well as the facility support dog program. In his current position as Director of Program Development, Ian oversees the puppy and breeding program, the kennel and welfare of the dogs, and in the autism assistance dog program. We are so happy to welcome you today, Ian, and hear all about your experience with Dog Guides Canada.
That's great. Thank you so much, Cynthia. I really appreciate being invited to come and talk to everybody. I've seen a few previous webinars that you've had, and I'm in very esteemed company. So I'm, like I say, I'm very, very privileged, and thank you for inviting me on. So what I will do is I will just show you a brief video that outlines our programs, and then talk in more depth about our seizure response dog program, what it entails, what the training entails, and the application process and everything. And then be very, very happy to answer any questions after that. So just bear with me a moment, and I will I'll put up our Dog Guide Canada video for you. I'm sorry, apparently there's no sound with the video. So let me see if I can figure that out. I can hear the sound. So let me just try unmuting. Okay, so let me try that again and see if that works. Modern technology. Okay. Okay. So I'm sorry about that.
Take your headphones out.
Okay. I'm just going to try that once more because apparently if you take your headphones out, it works. Is that okay, Cynthia, if I can just try that once more?
Yes, of course.
Just bear with me a few moments. Okay, so let me try sharing this and see if this works. I'll keep it on a small screen just at the moment.
Spirit's presence in my life has made.
Can you hear that, Cynthia?
Yep, we can hear.
Major concern for me before Spirit was not hearing my alarm clock. And since I have him, I sleep better because I have the confidence that he's going to wake me up faithfully every morning when the alarm goes off. I don't have to worry about fire and emergencies like that because he will alert me to those sounds. I'm not burning food like I used to. I'm not missing doorbells, not missing my grandchildren calling me. That is really important. Sometimes being out, I would feel that people thought I was being rude because I didn't always hear them speaking to me. Having Spirit, I'm not interpreted as being rude to people because I don't hear them. He's my ears. He hears the sounds for me. I feel a lot more secure now than I did before.
I
I started out with a little bit of vision loss, and then I gradually had to go to a white cane. And it seemed like my world was shrinking in on me. And I found that I was starting not to do things that I would normally do or go places that I would normally go. So I decided that it was time to look into a dog guide. Nico has really brought back my mobility, my independence. He makes sure that I get where I want to go safely. He takes care of all the hazards for me, even the routes I know if there's any changes in the routes, construction or parked cars or anything like that, and he guides me around them. So it just makes it pretty much effortless now to go for a walk and head on into work. If there's an upside to having vision loss, it's to end up with a dog guide like Nico. He's just a great dog.
Living along with Wilson residents, it's really given me security, knowing that he's there by my side all the time and he'll never leave me. It's also given my family a sense of security, because I don't think I would have been allowed to live in residence if I didn't have Willis. Like, I almost feel like I can function normally like a normal person. I don't know how I got around without having Willis, because I couldn't open the doors on my own. I had to wait for somebody to come by. Or if I dropped something, I'd have to go and try and find somebody to pick it up so that I wouldn't lose it. Now, Willis by my side, I now can live independently. Having a dog guide really has transformed and improved my life. Now that Man is with me, I always know that somebody's there when I have a seizure. It makes me feel really safe when I'm on my own. He alerts to my seizures by barking, and it's always good to know that there's somebody there. They're a very special dog.
With Hastings, we were always worried about him being unable to be himself or to be confident enough to go out in public or to excel at school. And now with Manny there to reassure him, it's really allowed him to reach his full potential. He's a great assistance for Hastings and just makes the quality of our lives so much better.
There are many avenues one could look at in terms of therapy or treatment for a child with autism, but in our heart we knew that there was something else. And once we found out about the Autism Assistance Program through Dog Guides Canada, we knew immediately that was something that we needed to pursue. The bond between Cash and Matthew is very unique. Cash watches over Matthew, and that gives us a sense of security and safety because we know that Matthew is tethered to Cash. Before Cash came into our lives, Matthew spent many hours of the day in a very anxious state where emotions are very, very high. So what Cash does is he provides that calming influence. We are able to go out together as a family rather than having one parent stay at home. This gives us perhaps a little bit more sense of a normal life than we had before. Cash is this added component to our family to just give us all another sense of life and encouragement and hope for the future.
Lions Foundation of Canada provides 6 different kinds of dog guides: service dog guides, hearing ear, canine vision, seizure response, autism assistance, and diabetic alert. Diabetic alert dog guides are trained to help people who have type 1 diabetes with hypoglycemic unawareness. By sensing a change in their handler's breath, they're able to detect a drop in their handler's blood sugar and alert them. These dog guides are also trained to fetch a kit so that their handler can test their blood sugar levels and take glucose tablets or eat something sweet if needed. Their ability to detect and react to hypoglycemic episodes helps their handler avoid loss of consciousness and subsequent life-threatening effects. All dog guides spend the first year of their life living with a foster family, learning basic manners and being introduced to various social environments. They then return to Lions Foundation School for 4 to 6 months and learn skills that will assist their future handler. Once they complete their training, they are matched with their new handler, who comes to the school to train with them for 1 to 4 weeks. The end result is a working team, with each dog guide helping to provide greater safety, mobility, and independence daily. Each dog guide costs approximately $25,000 to raise and train, which is why fundraising initiatives and donations are essential to enabling the foundation to continue to meet the growing demand for dog guides and provide them to Canadians at no cost. With no government funding, the foundation relies on the generosity of individuals, Lions clubs, service organizations, and corporations to provide necessary funding. One important source of funding is the Pet Value Walk for Dog Guides, the largest fundraiser of its kind in Canada. The walk takes place in more than 200 communities across the country, with 100% of the proceeds going towards the 6 dog guide programs. The Lions Foundation provides the broadest range of services that dog guides have been proven to assist. With your support, in the future, the Lions Foundation can continue to develop new ways for dog guides to change lives.
There we go. There we go. So third time lucky with the video. So we learned something new now, that if you're showing a YouTube video on Zoom, take out your earplugs. So I hope you enjoyed that. That really gives an overview of the work that we do at Dog Guides Canada. And really, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but also as well about the application process and really what is involved in getting a dog, and specifically a seizure response dog. So as you see, we started off way back in 1983 as an organization that just trained dogs for the blind and visually impaired. And from there, it quickly became sort of apparent that there was lots of challenges that people faced across Canada, and also as well, lots of different ways that dogs could help. So even from those early days, we decided to, as an organization, to do things slightly differently to other organizations that typically train one or a couple of types of dogs to help certain challenges. So with Dog Guides Canada, they felt that we started off with our canine vision program, but then sort of mushroomed into developing other programs, utilizing the dogs that we have to provide for lots of different disabilities, and helping a wider range of people using two things: using our breeding program that's producing great dogs, but also our expertise in all the different areas and different fields. So in 2007, when I started, we had trained a few seizure response dogs under our sort of service dog umbrella, and they had been quite successful. But we'd had a lot of interest, a lot of questions, a lot of inquiries about developing that program further. So I worked with a couple of instructors who had trained some dogs, and we decided then to create our seizure response dog program as its own standalone program within our foundation. So to do that, we started off, learning as every organization does, and developing our training processes and seeing really what benefited our clients, out in the field. What tasks did they want the dog to do? Now, the important thing to distinguish at this point is that there's two sort of phrases that are used with seizure dogs. seizure response dogs, and seizure alert dogs. Now, there are organizations that feel that they have the expertise to train a dog to alert to a seizure ahead of time. Now, as far as we were concerned, we don't know what the dog is picking up on. We don't know how they learn that. And so we then decided not to go that route, but decided to just focus on our dogs responding when somebody actually does have a seizure. So what we did, we started by training dogs to bark for help. And that really was the most popular sort of alert that we found. And so if somebody actually then has a seizure, that then acts as a trigger for our dog guide to bark and bark and bark for help. And that can be in, you know, their home, in their apartment, or out in the public, in a mall, wherever they are, the dog will respond to that trigger when somebody actually has a seizure. The other alert that we can train the dogs to do is to hit those lifeline buttons. And this we found is very useful for our clients that lived by themselves and you know, didn't have any sort of close neighbors, and they would set up a lifeline system, and the dog would then respond by hitting that lifeline button once if they had a seizure. So those were the two alerts that we focused on. The other things that we train our dogs to do are to obviously alert and sort of like ask for help if somebody is having a seizure, but also then other tasks involved around when somebody's recovering from a seizure. Obviously, you know, if you're in a strange place or out in public and you've had a seizure, you might have sort of hurt yourself, maybe feeling disorientated, confused. And one of the things then that we have the dogs to do is lie closely to that person and sort of, you know, give them that reassurance. So they provide that companionship, and they provide that sort of grounding effect, which helps considerably when somebody has then had a seizure. The other thing that we train our dogs to do as well is to retrieve. So they will go and retrieve a cordless phone. If somebody has again fallen and damaged themselves. Most people obviously have cell phones on them now, so that doesn't tend to be as widely used as it was when we first started the program, even back in 2007. So those are the main tasks that we train our dogs to do. But aside from that, the other thing that we find happens with all our programs, but also particularly in our seizure response dog program, is that you get that best friend. You get that companionship, you get that link that really helps with people's socialization, that almost puts a bit more of a positive outlook on the challenge that you have. We all know that if somebody does have a seizure out in the public can be pretty put off, unfortunately, and often reluctant to go and help, and, you know, obviously questioning what's happening. What we find with a seizure response dog is that people instantly obviously know that something's wrong, but also you've got, you know, a gorgeous looking Labrador there that acts as a positive bridge. So people are very, very much more inclined to help, and that starts that conversation around, you know, are you okay? What can we do to help? And creates a positive bridge. So we find that all those things really go to be a huge, huge benefit to our clients across Canada that have epilepsy. And one of the common comments that we get all the time is that, you know, somebody's life has really opened up. You know, you saw on the video with a young boy there with his dog Manny, and he was saying that that acts as a very positive effect on his life generally, encourages sort of relationships, and just people become more outgoing because they have that their confidence in their dog. So we find that apart from the actual job that the dog does, then the other effects in terms of sort of helping with people's anxieties and other sort of unmeasurable positive effects that our dogs help with. So so we find that has a big benefit. So how do you apply for a seizure response dog? So there is a process to it, and it's quite a lengthy process, and unfortunately there is a wait time as well associated with that. Obviously, going forward, we don't know, you know, how everybody's going to come out of this, but initially we do have our website, so it's dogguides.com, and on that website then is the application form to fill in, to send back to us or email back to us. And if you can do that, or if you want a friend or relative or a specialist or a care worker to do that, then you know, any one of those routes is great. The other thing that we have, there is a lower age limit. So we do have some younger people applying, but our minimum age limit is 12. Because what we want people to actually be fairly responsible for handling their own dogs. So our lower age limit is 12. And then also another part of the application is actually having fairly frequent seizures. And obviously, you know, we don't wish that on anybody, but for our dogs to really work effectively, they do need to practice. And as part of the training and part of the training of our clients, then people do actually have to practice simulating a seizure, but also in real life, if the dog has to respond to that seizure, if somebody is maybe just having one seizure, maybe every 6 months or something like that, there isn't sufficient there for the dog to really get to practice in real life and respond. So it becomes, the training actually really becomes sort of much more diminished then if people aren't having regular seizures. So we do have a minimum criteria of about 2 or 3 seizures a month of tonic-clonic seizures. We do have other types of seizures that our dogs do respond to, but there's certain types of seizures that our dogs won't respond to, very much more in terms of the absence seizures. It's quite hard for a dog to pick up on that cue. So that's all, you know, assessed as part of our application process. So once you've sent the application form in, we do require a report from your specialist, from your neurologist, and also your doctor as well. But also we do require references. So we'll need a reference if you have somebody who knows you well, or a veterinarian, or somebody who feels that they can comment on your ability to look after a dog independently, then we require that reference as well. Once we receive all that paperwork, then we will arrange for one of our instructors to come and do an in-home visit. And that is, regardless of where you live in Canada, one of our instructors comes out and visits you, and then spends, you know, about an hour and a half, 2 hours in your home, talking through your application, what is involved in looking after a seizure response dog, and also obviously is there to answer any questions that you have. So it's very much a two-way process. So if somebody, our instructor comes and asks those questions, but also is there in person to answer any questions or any concerns that you have about owning a dog or the training or what needs to happen. After that in-home assessment, then the next stage of the process is to decide whether or not we feel that a seizure response dog will meet your needs. And unfortunately, not everyone can be successful with one of our dogs. And unfortunately, not every person will really benefit from having that in their life. So we sort of gauge that as part of all the information that we've received. And then we make a decision on every single application that we've received to decide, yes, we can help you and provide one of our dogs, or unfortunately, a seizure response dog isn't for you. Hopefully it's the former, and we are able to provide you with a seizure response dog. As part of that in-home assessment, another thing that our instructors look for is really what type of dog suits your character, your personality, your environment, because that is an important part of our process in terms of matching the right dog to the right person. And that involves all sort of different aspects of that person's life, where they live, their type of housing, their activity level, what somebody's level, just simple things of how fast do you walk? Would you require a bigger dog or a smaller dog? All those questions are asked. And so we can get that really great match when we call you for class training. So the next stage then is that we've accepted your application. You're on our wait list for a dog. We've actually found a right dog for you. And then we invite you to come and spend 3 weeks at our Oakville facility. So we have a residential training course, and that's 3 weeks long. And we do ask that you bring a caregiver. So that's very, very important that you get somebody to come with you as a caregiver to stay with you, because at the moment we don't have any sort of medical staff within the center. So you must bring a caregiver with you for those 3 weeks to stay with you at the training center. Now, obviously, a common question is, what does all this cost? And the very simple answer to our clients is nothing. So we're in a very fortunate position of being able to provide all our assessment, all the training, all the ongoing support and follow-up completely free of charge. The only costs to our clients are the actual training, the actual upkeep of their dogs. So that's something that we are very, very pleased to say. And we are constantly on, fundraising so that we can continue to provide dogs right across Canada at absolutely no cost. Once you've completed your training, then you come leave home. You'll go back home with your new dog, and your dog will settle into the new life and your house with you. We don't stop there. We don't leave it there. We come and support that process, and we visit and make sure that everything is working well. So basically, it's a lifelong commitment on terms of Dog Guides Canada. We come and we do the aftercare visits. We keep in touch on a regular basis. And on your part, we ask you obviously to keep continuing the training, keep in contact with us, and obviously, practicalities like taking the dog to the vet and sending us a vet report in on a regular basis are all part of your commitment. So that, in a nutshell, is sort of our training and our follow-up and our aftercare process for all our dogs right across Canada. And at the moment, we've got, we trained over, I did have my figures already. So we have nearly 100 active dogs within our seizure response dog program across Canada. And we've actually, at the moment, we've got 30 people on our wait list. It is a fairly small program for us. So we do we're training about sort of 10 to 12 dogs every year. Now, how we come out of obviously the pandemic at this stage, we don't know. So we are looking forward to inviting people back into our center. We're looking forward to developing new ways of working that are safe for our clients and our instructors. And at the moment, we have a whole group of dogs that are out in volunteer homes, waiting for us to sort of reopen again after you know, hopefully the pandemic is over in some sort of way, shape, or form. So that's a bit about our program. That's a bit about our training. I'd be very, very happy now to answer any questions concerning the training, our breeding program, puppy program, or anything else. And look forward to meeting someday in person again. One of the great things about when people come to visit us is you actually get to meet the dogs in person rather than me just sitting here sort of rambling away. So it's always people come and say, oh, can I come and see the dogs? So we hope to be doing that again very, very soon. So thank you, Cynthia. And any questions?
Yes, well, what an incredible organization. And I have been, and I have seen the process. We've had a client or two go through the epilepsy training program. The training is unbelievable. Think about, you know, 1 to 2 years, I guess, before someone gets their actual seizure response dog. And in the meantime, it's had all this extensive training. There is an extensive application process, as you mentioned, and now a bit of a wait period. How is the training? How did it start? We have a question. What dog trainers did you consult? Like, how did this epilepsy response program start?
Well, one of the great things about our organization is that we are part of Assistance Dogs International. Now, Assistance Dogs International, or ADI, is a worldwide umbrella sort of organization of members that are all providing service dogs of all different types. And so as an organization, we can help other organizations, but also we can benefit from that. So one of the things that we do, and this is right across the world, Cynthia, we actually share ideas, we share training methods, we share tips and, you know, sort of new theories, new ways that dogs are training. So when we first started this, this program, our own trainers did have some experience, but also then we did talk to lots of other organizations, both in the US and in the UK, who have had previous experience of this, saying, you know, what are the things that you've learned, and how can we then put that into practice? So there's great collaboration that goes on. And also as well, one of the other benefits of being a member of ADI is that it's a very recognized standard for service dog organizations around the world. So, you know, the minimum standards that you need are very, very high, and that's regularly checked on by other organizations that come and visit you. And, you know, there's a whole load of, there's massive accreditation process that happens. So, but as a result of that, you know, you do get these very, very high quality organizations producing great dogs all over the world.
Wow. So you consulted the world basically. to get
Literally,
this
yes.
started. And then you chose, because there are seizure response dogs, which you're training for, and then the seizure alert dog. The one case that we know of with our client who had a seizure response dog, I think instinctively she just by chance was able to detect when this person was about to have a seizure, and she alerted. She would bark at him.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting because it's not taught. That's just an instinct that that particular dog had. And I think you've said that a small percentage of your dogs can, and nobody knows why.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, anecdotally, we hear lots of stories from our clients that, yeah, their dog was antsy, started playing up, and we had no clue. And then, you know, 10 minutes later had a seizure. So, I mean, our suspicion is that it may be scent related, that something changes, you know, within your metabolism or something just prior to a seizure that the dogs are picking up on. That's our suspicion, but it'd be great to do a research project on that or something, for sure.
For sure. Yeah. It's just so interesting. And is there a wait time? Like, what would it? You said there's about 30 on the wait list, so 12 a year. The wait time.
Yeah.
I mean, someone could start the process anytime.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a difficult thing, Cynthia, because with our wait time, you know, the wait time actually starts from the second we receive your application. So it's not from when, you know, you're accepted. It's from the second we receive the application. You know, we go through our wait list. But the important part of it is that we try and match the dog with that person. So sometimes the wait list might be a little bit shorter. Sometimes the wait time might be a little bit longer. It's really getting that, you know, ideal match between person and dog.
Wow. And yeah, and that can just take some time.
It can, yes. Yeah, unfortunately.
Not every dog that's trained makes it to the program.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Which we experienced in our agency. We had one of our staff, Nicole, fostered for a year. So we had Bubble in our office, a very, very rambunctious, energetic black lab, and she's just gorgeous. And she was in our office for a whole year. She went to camp. So the socialization of the first year with those people that foster the dogs, that's a pretty incredible part of your process too.
Oh, it's amazing. Our volunteers are huge to us. I mean, at the moment, you know, obviously when things started sort of closing down, we had about 110 dogs in training. So we had them in our kennels here and at our location up in Breslau. And, you know, one of the decisions then early on was that, you know, we're going to send all those dogs home, and all our instructors and everybody will be working from home and supporting our clients by phone and email, but not doing the dog training. So our volunteers stepped up and said, yeah, we'll take our dogs back. So on top of that, we have our foster families, like you said, that foster the puppies. So out there around the GTA, they've got about 450 dogs and puppies out with volunteers that are waiting then to, you know, to come back into training when we can start up safely again.
That's incredible. That's just incredible. In your presentation, you mentioned that once the person receives the dog, they are responsible for paying for its care.
Yes.
And we have a question. They're wondering if there is any support or a program out there that would help people with those day-to-day costs, I guess, food and medical bills, etc. And so that would be a question to you if that's out there.
Absolutely. So there's a couple of ways that people can get help, but as part of that, and it obviously depends where you are in Canada, but if you are on a support program, so for example in Ontario, if you are a recipient of ODSP, then there is a room for that. You get an extra, I think it's about $80 a month towards costs of your guide or service dog. And that's pretty much across different provinces. that you can get an addition to your support program payment to help with your service dog costs. In terms of emergency vet bills, we do have a lot of support from Lions clubs right across Canada, and we have them often helping our clients that have difficulties with a big emergency vet bill that obviously nobody expects and sometimes can run into thousands of dollars. And very often we've had local Lions clubs have really stepped up and helped our client within that area. And then there are other sort of in Ontario there is the Farley Foundation as well that again helps people with emergency vet bills. So there are mechanisms out there, but yeah, unfortunately there is some costs in terms of care, but there are other things out there to help with that.
Right. That's really good to know, and that was a good question. There's
Very
such
good.
a strong bond that's developed between a person with a seizure response dog, and then what the other end of the spectrum, there is a point in time where the dog gets old or the dog is required to retire, and then or the dog eventually dies. So what is there a transition to that, and just can you tell us just a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's an important part to talk about, Cynthia, because one of the things within this program is that bond is absolutely vital, and it's really, really strong. And for that reason, one of the things I forgot to mention in terms of the application process is that there's only one dog allowed in the household, and that is your seizure response dog program. That was one of the things that we learned from other organizations around the world, is that if there's another dog in the house, quite often the dog will be playing with that other dog and will be more sort of involved in that dog and not so focused on you as the person and responding to your seizures. So there is you're only allowed to have your seizure response dog in the house, which does come as a very, very difficult conversation as the dog gets on in life. Now, what we do is obviously we're in constant contact with our clients across the country, and we are obviously supporting them as the years go by. When the dog is starting to get a bit older, then we start to have those conversations around, okay, would you like to apply for another dog as a successor dog to your dog that you've got already? And so we hope that there can be a very, very steady sort of changeover period. But also then at the end of that dog's working life, then you can adopt him or her to a friend or a family member, so long as it's sort of outside the house. So you can still get contact with your dog, but it needs to be adopted out to somebody else. If you do want to keep the dog past its retirement age, then unfortunately you wouldn't be able to get another seizure response dog until the dog passes. So there are some difficult conversations, but we're there to support that. We have conversations with our clients, with their veterinarians. So it's a sort of a three-way conversation as to, yeah, the dog's slowing down and it needs to retire, get its pipe and slippers, and then in front of the fire and enjoy those years. And then a young dog then comes and can be that person's successor dog for ongoing.
So that's nice to know. That's a nice transition. It sounds like there's I just have a couple more questions. The how can a trainer get involved?
How can a trainer get involved in what sort
dog
of
guides? So in, I guess, the training process or your organization.
Okay. So as an organization, all our trainers, all our instructors are employed as professionals and skilled professionals within our organization. So what we do, if we have vacancies, we post those as a job, and there's two ways to come in. First of all, if you have worked for another organization, again, another Assistance Dogs International organization, we will look at that person who's already skilled, who has already sort of graduated, but also then we do have our own in-house apprenticeship program. Now that apprenticeship program is 3 years long, and so there's all areas of the training are covered during that 3 years, because we want somebody who's not only involved in the dog training side of things, we want somebody who's a teacher as well, because what we have to do is we have to teach our clients to become dog trainers. They have to continue that training throughout the whole life of the dog. So part of the intensive training course at Oakville is teaching that person to become a dog trainer, to continue that training. So it's a very skilled process. Our instructors are amazingly skilled in terms of their dog training and their people training skills as well.
And no wonder it costs $25,000 to.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Can we talk about breed for a second?
Absolutely, yeah.
I saw a lot of poodles. I know you have your hyperallergenic dog requirements, and then you've got certain dogs that work better than other breeds, and can you just
so with the breeds, we have our own breeding program, and that's a big part of our success, because by having our own breeding program, we can carefully select those dogs to have sort of that great temperament for training, for living with people with different challenges, but also then the health requirements as well. So we mainly breed Labrador retrievers. That's our sort of bread and butter dog. So we have about sort of 60% Labrador retrievers. We do breed quite a number of standard poodles as well, for people with allergies. And also then we actually have a golden retriever stud dog. So we do a first generation cross Labrador golden retriever that seems to get the best of both worlds, and has turned out to be a wonderful sort of combination for service dog programs. So those are the breeds that we use, and currently there's about 65% of our dogs are successful in one of our programs. One of the great things about having so many programs is that there's lots of sort of career streams for the dogs. Yes. And so we can utilize them. So if dog's not successful in one program, then it may be great in another.
For another. Isn't that incredible? That's really something. And I guess you breed, there's certain dogs that are smarter, and certain dogs that have better.
Exactly. Every dog has its own characteristics. Yeah. And that's where that matching comes into place.
Yeah. Is there a possibility for dogs who fail a program? I you have one or two every so often. Can they be matched with someone? How does that work?
So if one of our dogs fails our program, there's several things that can happen to it, depending on its reason for failing. So if there's a health issue, then obviously it can't continue in any sort of way, and it gets adopted out as a pet. Usually the foster families get first option to adopt that as their own pet, as they've raised the dog within that first sort of 12 months. If it's more a sort of temperamental issue, then we sort of assess what the problems were and why it wasn't successful. And some of our dogs who are very, very high energy, we've actually worked with Canadian Border Services, and some of the dogs are now working as detection dogs across Canada's borders. So they'll come and assess a dog for their work, so the dog can go to that. But one of the things is that, like I said, with our programs, there's lots of different career streams. If the dogs aren't successful in any of those programs, we have a massive wait list of people who would like to adopt one of our we call them career changed
Oh,
dogs.
wow. That's amazing. That's just amazing. That would be an amazing opportunity to receive one of those dogs. But
Exactly, yeah.
they're better. It's better if they go through the program and
Yeah,
do
it really
what they were intended
depends.
to do.
Exactly, yeah. It really depends, you know, why they weren't successful.
I have my own question. You
Mm-hmm.
work primarily in the autism.
I do now, yes.
Yes, and so about 30 to 40% of people with autism have seizures.
Exactly, yes.
So how is there some sort of integration? I guess that's a really specialty match for those.
It really is. I mean, the dogs that we select for our autism assistance program are very, very special anyway, because, you know, they have that just very, very solid, easygoing nature. Nothing really phases them. And if the situation is right, and it really does depend on each individual situation, then we can sort of help the family to train a few extra skills that the dogs may alert, may respond if the child does have a seizure. Sometimes it doesn't quite work like that because of the, you know, some dogs and children create a fabulous bond. Some children on the spectrum don't really bond as well as we would like them to, just because of the challenges that they face. So each situation like that is very, very different, Cynthia. But yes,
Right.
it goes a long way towards helping with the anxieties and the stresses and everything sort of surrounding that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you today, Ian.
Well,
I'd like
thank
you
you.
just to stay with us. Hang on. I'm just
Yeah.
going to promote the next webinar, which is with Dr. Marco Magalese, and he's a supporter of ours of Epilepsy South Central Ontario, and he is going to share his story and why he raises money for us and why he runs the Mississauga Marathon, and that's on June 15th at 11 a.m. So everyone, thank you for joining us today and learning all about Dog Guides Canada.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. I'm glad the video got to work in the end.